to the IBLA jury, I believe Yash Jain, my colleague, is in conversation with Abhinav Bindra. Yash?
Well, that's correct, Nigel. I have someone with me who needs very limited by means of introduction. I have Mr. Abhinav Bindra. Sir, thank you so much for speaking to us. And it's a day where we speak about leadership, how the roles have evolved when it comes to leaders. And you come from a space where taking leadership on ground in the sport that you choose becomes very important to determine the direction of the team and the other players. I just want to understand from you, as you saw leadership 10 years ago, and as you see it today, what are some of the qualities which you've sort of observed have changed drastically when it comes to the leader's show and the leader's performance?
Well, I think the fundamentals remain the same. I mean, we all need to be resilient. We need to learn how to fail well, because leadership is much to do about dealing with failure and how one learns from it and how one evolves from it. But I think what has really changed is, I think, leadership is also a lot about adaptability, because we live in such changing times where, in order to survive, we have to adapt to the changing environment. And I think what we see is leaders just more flexible in mindset, more innovative, and just having that adaptability, which is absolutely necessary to survive in today's day and age.
That's very well explained in terms of, what potentials are required. I want to understand from you, who are some of your leaders that you look up to, the mentors that you look up to while you were, of course, active, and now who are these some of the peoples and the qualities that you look up to?
Hard to take a name, but, it could be anybody. I think I've come from a space where I've played sport, and sometimes, I've learned so much from areas where I never thought that I'd be able to learn. So the idea for me was always to keep a very open mind and just have a mindset of growth and learn from different people. And for example, when I was an athlete, I learned a lot from a deep sea diver, for example. I learned a lot from a downhill skier. Nothing to do with my sport, but they helped me a lot. You talk about leadership, and I had interesting relationships with my coaches, who were my leaders in a way, right?
Correct.
And my most interesting relationship was with a coach who I actually hated and I never got along with, but I learned to work with him. And at the end of the day, it became perhaps one of the most important relationships that I had, and I learned a lot about leadership from that man. We are now good friends, but it was just the ability to incorporate complementary and conflicting points of view in whatever I did.
Correct. Very well put. Sometimes qualities that you look up to come in the most unexpected ways and forms. But another question with respect to a sport which is unrelated to the sport that you were active in. Cricket has sort of made its space when it comes to Olympics. In India, it's a sport which is very, very closely followed. How do you see the space changing for Indian fans, for Olympics, for a lot of people globally who follow Olympics as the space? How does it change now with cricket making its mark?
Well, I think firstly, of course, cricket's made it for LA, but we have the Paris Games coming up next year. I think as a nation, we are, taking to sport in a much bigger way, and we're no longer just a one sport nation. We have a young population, our demographic is so young, and the consumption of sport, whether our population playing sport or whether our population consuming sport, is consuming many different sporting disciplines. So we're really becoming and embracing sport we're becoming a multi-sport nation, which is great to see. Of course, the entry of cricket into the Olympic fold is, I think, going to give a further push to the Olympic movement in India, because we all know, cricket is much loved in India. So many fans for the sport, and I think it is just going to give a further fillip to the whole Olympic movement in India. The sport of cricket has a fan base of 2.5 billion people around the world. So it is 1 billion from India, but there is also another billion from the rest of the globe which follows the sport.
One last question before I let you go. following the World Cup this time around, how are you looking at the Indian team in terms of its performance? We are unbeaten so far, 6 out of 6. How are you seeing Indian team's performance? And as we reach the knockout stage and therefore they're ahead, how do you see how strong are the chances here? And what could be one of those teams that the Indian team will have to be careful of?
Well, I don't know who they have to be careful of, but I think they've played fantastically and magnificently so far. And now it's really about keeping it together, peaking at the right time, because now I think the next games, as you said, in the knockout stage is when it really counts. So I hope that, like all of us, that, they're able to keep this going, keep upping their game and end up victorious in a couple of weeks' time. We're all
Lovely. What a great note to end this conversation. I wish you all the best and, of course, have a good time at the IBLA jury today. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Thank you. With that, guys, it's back to you.
Thank you, Yash. That's an inspiring, fun chat that you had there. We need to move on.